How do you star in one of the biggest movies in cinema history, dominate pop culture for an entire year, and then make the internet ask if you've disappeared? That's exactly what happened to Margot Robbie after Barbie. One moment she was everywhere, memes, billboards, red carpets, and the next, people were wondering where she went. The truth is simpler and far more interesting. Margot Robbie didn't vanish. She recalibrated. When success becomes a double-edged sword. Barbie wasn't just a hit, it was a cultural event. The film earned roughly $1.44 billion worldwide, became the highest-grossing movie of 2023, and turned a plastic doll into a global conversation about identity, gender, and capitalism, while still being funny. That kind of success changes everything, and oddly enough, it can also freeze momentum instead of accelerating it. When a movie performs well, Hollywood rushes a sequel. When a movie becomes historic, Hollywood panics. Expectations skyrocket. Anything that comes next isn't judged on its own merit, it's judged against lightning in a bottle. That's where Margot Robbie found herself after Barbie. Every next move suddenly mattered more than ever. Why there is no Barbie sequel announcement yet. Despite endless speculation, memes, think pieces, and studio wishful thinking, there is still no officially announced Barbie sequel. That isn't spin, misdirection, or Hollywood playing coy. It's simply the current reality. And no, it's not because Warner Bros. Suddenly lost interest in a film that made roughly $1.4 billion worldwide and dominated pop culture for an entire year. Any studio on Earth would want a sequel to that. The real issue is far more complicated. Wanting a sequel and knowing how to make one without damaging the original are two very different things. Margot Robbie herself has been unusually candid about this. In interviews following the film's release, she made it clear that Barbie was designed as a complete idea, not a franchise starter disguised as a standalone film. The story had a beginning, a middle, and a deliberate ending. That's not a polite Hollywood maybe later. It's a creative boundary. Robbie has openly acknowledged that a sequel can't exist simply because the box office numbers demand it. It needs a genuine reason to exist. A concept strong enough to justify reopening a story that already said what it needed to say. And as of now, no one directly involved has publicly claimed that such a reason exists yet. The Greta Gerwig problem in a good way. Another major reason Barbie 2 isn't rushing into production is Greta Gerwig herself. The first film worked because it didn't feel like a typical studio product. It felt authored. Gerwig's voice was everywhere, in the humor, the structure, the emotional pivots, and even in the film's willingness to stop and ask uncomfortable questions while wearing a bright pink smile. That specific tone is not easy to replicate, and without it, Barbie risks becoming just another brand extension. A sequel without Greta Gerwig wouldn't feel like a continuation of the same creative vision. It would feel like a copy wearing the same clothes. Gerwig has previously expressed openness to the idea of exploring Barbie again, but openness is not commitment. Creative alignment takes time, especially when expectations are this high. Scheduling also matters, and Gerwig's career has expanded significantly since Barbie. Until the same creative energy, availability, and confidence align again, announcing a sequel would be far more risky than strategic. The Barbie 2 is happening reports, and why they were walked back. In late 2024, several reports suggested that a Barbie sequel was quietly moving forward behind the scenes. Naturally, the internet ran with it. Headlines multiplied, speculation exploded, and expectations reignited. But within days, those reports were publicly pushed back by representatives connected to the filmmakers and the studio, stating clearly that there was no legitimate sequel project in motion at that time. That doesn't mean conversations aren't happening privately. Hollywood is built on conversations. What it means is that nothing has progressed far enough to be called real. No script, no official commitment, no locked creative direction. In industry terms, this usually translates to one thing. If a sequel happens, it won't be rushed. It will be slow, deliberate, and heavily protected from premature hype. So what has Margot Robbie actually been doing? While audiences waited for another pink explosion, Margot Robbie shifted into a different gear. She continued acting, but more importantly, she doubled down on producing through her company, LuckyChap Entertainment. In 2024, LuckyChap signed a first-look feature film deal with Warner Bros., cementing Robbie's role not just as a star, but as a creative power broker. This matters because Margot Robbie is no longer choosing projects just to stay visible. She's choosing projects that shape conversations and careers. Her recent and upcoming projects prove she didn't step back. She stepped sideways in 2025. Robbie starred in A Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey, a romantic fantasy directed by Kogonada, showing her continued interest in visually ambitious, emotionally driven stories rather than franchise repetition. Then comes Wuthering Heights, directed by Fennell and scheduled for a 2026 release, where Robbie plays Catherine Earnshaw opposite Jacob Elordi. She isn't just starring in that film, she's producing it. These choices aren't accidental. They signal a clear pattern. Margot Robbie is building longevity, not chasing noise. Why the internet thinks she disappeared. The modern celebrity cycle is unforgiving. If an actor isn't releasing a blockbuster every year, the algorithm assumes something went wrong. Silence is interpreted as failure. But after Barbie, Margot Robbie reached a rare career stage where overexposure became a bigger threat than invisibility. Continuing at the same pace risked turning her into a brand instead of an artist. Stepping back slightly wasn't a retreat. It was strategy. Instead of flooding the market with appearances and sequels, she allowed space to form. She let audiences miss her. Judging by how often people now ask where she went, that strategy worked exactly as intended. The real question isn't where is Margot Robbie? The real question is this. Would you rather see Margot Robbie trapped in an endless loop of pink-themed sequels or carefully selecting roles and stories that keep her relevant, respected, and creatively fulfilled 10 years from now? Everything she's done since Barbie suggests she's choosing the long game. She isn't reacting to hype, she's shaping what comes after it. She didn't disappear. She repositioned. And about Barbie too, here's the honest truth. A Barbie sequel is not dead. It's not confirmed. It exists in a space Hollywood rarely admits to, possibility without urgency. If it happens, it will likely be because the same people who made the first film special find a new idea worth telling. Not because the internet demanded it. Not because the box office spreadsheet screamed for it. And that restraint might be the smartest move of all. That's all for today's video. If you enjoy smart breakdowns like this and want more deep dives into Hollywood, culture, and what's really happening behind the headlines, like and subscribe.